Okay, it is 6 p.m. and I will call this meeting of the Town of Lunenburg Committee of the Whole to the order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Halverson. Is there any discussion, additions, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. That takes us on to our June 1st, 2021 meeting minutes. I would like to get a motion to approve those. Moved by Councillor Bertels, seconded by Councillor Sanford. Any errors or omissions to note? Who remembers back that far? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. There are no public presentations or business arising. There is new business. This is the first meeting of our 2022-23 budget season. We are beginning with the capital budget, and I will turn the floor over to the CAO.
Good evening, everyone. So we're going to spend next hour or two going through the first version of the proposed budget for capital budget for 22-23. I've just got a handful of opening comments here, and I'll run through these rather quickly. I think you can tell, number one, that one of the measures of of your ability to take on new initiatives is determined by something we call flexibility, and flexibility is often talked about in the context of how many projects are already pre-approved or carryover versus how many are new. In this environment right now, we're actually facing pre-approved or carryover that account for about 85% of the budget. So what we're talking about here in real terms is really only 15% of the capital budget. We have broken that down into what we consider to be higher priority or required operational items and items that we can still bring up for discussion. Now, I want to remind Council that as we go through the meeting, if there's something on here that you don't see, feel free to bring it up. And if there's something on here that you don't like, feel free to tell us, because this is in fact a draft budget. We want to have a discussion around it, and we want to get a budget that represents what Council's real true priorities are. The second piece I want to talk about are what I refer to as capacity limitations. Right now, we have two areas of concern within our organization. The first is public works. We have two key vacancies. We have an acting town engineer, God bless her, with a little over 2 months of experience with our organization. She's the fastest rising town engineer in the history of Nova Scotia. But yeah, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we have so many vacancies in that area that we're struggling to conduct the day-to-day activities, and the vast majority of what we see in the capital budget is in fact items that are going to be acted upon by the town engineer and the town engineer staff. So, the typical process for much of this is to conduct, get a sense of what the project looks like, prepare an RFP, review the responses to the RFP, conduct a detailed design if it's needed for, to further that process. There's a ton of work in it, and so we've been very conscious of the fact that that's a key challenge that we have, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. The other key vacancy that we have is in our planning shop, and we don't currently have an urban planner to speak of. We have the staff that we have in the planning section are doing yeoman's duty and producing a ton of work and focusing largely on disposal of assets right now. So we've got to be careful in that we can only bring on so many new initiatives as we do not have the staff to respond to a lot of that stuff that would typically be in the urban planning area. What are we doing to help overcome some of the capacity challenges? Well, we're doing a few things, but the one I'll speak to tonight in a little more detail, we're creating a staff level capital planning committee. And what we found as a result of last year is a lot of projects fell off the radar because of a lack of resources, a lack of ability to prioritize, and so on. So our new capital planning committee will be the CAO, finance reps, recreation, public works. And we're going to meet every Monday morning, starting this upcoming Monday. And we are going to be focused on ensuring that as much of this capital work as possible gets done. That's our goal. We want it done. We do not want, we're hoping to have as few carryovers into next year as humanly possible. I always recognize that when you approve a project, you're taking an allocation of funding, whether it's operational or capital, you're taking it this year. Therefore, another project cannot get approved. If you have a project that's getting funded and approved this year and you don't get it done, then it takes an equal amount of money out of next year's budget, right? Our goal here is not to save, well, it would be nice to make money, but it's not to save money. Our goal here is to get the projects done, right? So the capital planning committee will be looking at ways to ensure, first and foremost, that we support the public works branch and our acting town engineer. But secondly, that we use a combination of in-house and contracted resources such that we get the work done in the time frame that we need to get it done, such that we don't miss the construction season or minimize that effect. There are also a number of initiatives that I just want to speak to for a second. Some of them are embedded in the capital budget, others are outside, but there's a number of projects being announced or being considered that are in fact probably setting the basis for future work. And so as any good budget does, we're not only thinking about the priorities for today, we're thinking about the priorities of tomorrow. So you'll see in this particular proposed capital budget that we're focusing on a GIS underground infrastructure plan. We think that's significant to our ability to do stormwater separation and other major projects. The one thing we don't want to do is pave a road tomorrow and then dig it up the following year because we're doing underground project that destroys the asphalt that we just put there to begin with. We want to be able to build a long-term planned approach to anything under the ground and the sidewalks and the asphalt, such that we have a step-by-step process to do what we need to do to affect all the priorities in a very collaborative, jointed manner. We're also as part of one of the initiatives, and I'll talk more about it when we get there, but there is money in there for a recreational complex master plan. Again, we don't want to spend money until we have a sense of the long term and what it is we are looking forward to. So there are a few initiatives in recreation this year. Kelly will speak to them in a few minutes, but they make sense in light of where we're going and what we're trying to do, and the resources are put into areas that we know are of value today that won't cause us to say, in 2 years, why did we invest that money there? Because we know today we're going to be safe. The next major study that's underway or will be underway, and all of this, I want to clarify, will be brought to council. So, we're giving you the 30,000 foot kind of capital project view tonight. At some point down the road, we'll be bringing forward proposals that speak in far more detail to this stuff, and you'll get a much better sense for it. But I've proposed to call this a parking plan, for lack of a better word. The mayor likes to refer to it as a pedestrian plan, But the point is we need a parking strategy for the town of Lunenburg, and it will encompass all of the components of the CCP, which is a given. But we're also trying to do a lot of work on accessible parking. We've tried to look at what the requirements are for accessible parking, how to get people with any form of handicap in downtown Lunenburg and help them get around. That's going to be integrated with not only the parking plan, but sidewalks and all the other pieces of the puzzle that they need. The major initiative, one of the major initiatives in that plan will be to look at future electrical parking infrastructure, if you want to call it that. Right now in the city, you can go onto an app and put in your license plate number and pay for your parking online. In many parking areas, you go in and you input your credit card, you get a sticker, you put it inside your car. It can be there for 3 or 4 hours, whatever. I think we need to look at the meters that we have currently are very expensive. They're an older model. They're expensive to repair and to purchase. So I think we need to look at some of that infrastructure. And we need a pedestrian plan. We need to be able to move the people around the town of Lunenburg in a way that makes sense. I've heard different references in the last period of time to what Halifax is doing with Argyle Street and also up in Spring Garden Road area. There is lots of opportunity for that type of stuff, but we need to have it organized in a manageable fashion, and we need to know what the priorities are and how to go about doing that. The next one is it's not really on the list per se, but what you'll see, there's a number of vehicles for the public workshop that we're putting in the draft budget for this year. We felt it was time to get like what we do with fire departments, we have a 10-year capital plan for vehicles. Well, we now need a 10-year capital plan for public works. We need to know what it is they use, why they use it, how they use it, who uses it, and what its useful life will be, and how often we have to reinvest in that infrastructure, because it's key infrastructure and it's a value to us. But we just need a long-term plan so that we're not coming through this process every year trying to itemize what's a priority, what's not a priority. And we're not in a situation down the road where we're trying to buy salt trucks at the last second only to find out that there's all kinds of barriers and long lead times and everything. We got to get better organized that way. There is also a we'll call it a cemetery plan, for lack of a better term, but we need to look at some of the operational and strategic priorities of the cemetery. We're in a position now where if we don't do some further expansion of the cemetery, we're not going to be able to continue to sell lots. That expansion needs road construction, and road construction is expensive, and we need to look at, you know, a bit of a plan around that and how to prioritize the work that needs to get done. And finally, there's a session on the Civic Square fundraising plan, which will be held down the road to talk about how we can utilizing both provincial funding for accessibility and other initiatives, as well as some of the longstanding residents here of the town, like the veterans and some of the other clubs, Kiwanis Club and Masons Club, how we can start to work as a partnership to start to do some fundraising and eventually hopefully get to like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 piece where the town puts in a third, we get a third from provincial grants, and we hopefully can get a third from fundraising from the community to do a complete redo of the Civic Square to ensure that you know, our veterans, for example, can easily you know, using approachable handicap, appropriate acceptable handicap mechanisms, get up into the bandstand or up into that area where they can see some of the activities that are going on. So this is just trying to put some context around what we're going to be talking about here in the next few minutes. So once again, our flexibility is limited because of the amount of pre-approved stuff. We have some capacity limitations. We don't want to, you know, continue to reinforce that message, but it's a reality and it's been taken into consideration in the budget. We're doing what we can do at the staff level to help ensure that the plan is not only, once it's approved, implemented, but fully executed. And we have what we see as a number of really interesting strategies underway that will help us plan for the future in a way different than we've been able to do in the past. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. And perhaps Lisa, you can give us a sense of how we're going to go about how we'll go through the capital budget.
So thank you, Your Worship. But we've lost our lost our tech for bringing up the slides. But what I thought we would do this evening, if it pleases council, we have PowerPoint slides and we also have your budget package. And so what we have gone through as staff, we've highlighted, if you look at the summary sheet on page 2 of your budget package, it has the items grouped in the pre-approved or carry forward items, those more operational or higher priority items that Kevin referred to, or the discussion items. So they're The pre-approves are marked as green. The operational items are in blue and the discussion items are in yellow. So if you then refer to your slides, the slides will have the projects grouped by sort of overall departments and then color coded by the various items that they land in. So we were going to start with town general. And then I will just sort of throw it over to the staff lead to give a brief summary to council about the particular items that are all the items other than the pre-approved items, obviously. And then I thought we would just have sort of questions if there were at the end of each section and move on like that, if that works for everybody. Yeah, it's a good point because I'm going to throw it over to Kevin to.
So I will start with the town general. The exterior restoration is, as Lisa's indicated, is a pre-approved item. The Civic Square plan, we've got $20,000 in there. We don't have that earmarked for a particular item this year. It may end up being put aside for some design work if we can get to a stage where we feel design work is supportable. It could be used for a public consultation program. It could be used for a variety of things. And this is why we need to come back and give council some sense of how we want to move that project forward. We think it can be very exciting and engaging. As we're coming out of the COVID, everyone is eager and excited to, have some level of normality again. So, by opening up the bandstand, by having activities, by starting to bring attention to the fact that we have some aging infrastructure and get some excitement around a new plan, a bit of a beautification, a bit of an accessibility, but clearly a bit of a community icon, and recreating some excitement around that, I think will be fun. I think we'll make a bit of a project around creating a sense of community ownership. And that to me is what's going to create the buy-in to people and organizations wanting to be part of that exercise. So I'm not here tonight to tell you exactly what it will look like. I'm kind of giving you a sense of what we hope to achieve from it. But, we'll have lots of opportunity. If this gets approved as part of the budget, we'll bring back something that starts to talk about what the detailed approach would look like. With regard to the pandemic tree planting or resilient roots, I had a different name. I had trees that please, but I got voted down. We've heard repeatedly that there are a significant number of trees that due to a variety of reasons have had to come down in the town, and we haven't done a very good job of going out and actively replacing them. So what we've set aside this year is a starting point of $25,000. We have work from arborist back, I think, in 2014. We have our GIS guy running around identifying where all the trees are at and marking those. And we're going to develop a really exciting plan around the replacement of trees. Our hope is to start to engage, for example, grade primary, grade 1, grade 2 age school children to come out and be part of tree planting. We're hoping that we can give them little spruce trees to take home to their parents and have them go on the weekend and plant them outside the town in MODL somewhere, because we don't want spruce trees in downtown Lunenburg. The trees, for the town are going to be a specific type, and we want to ensure that we come at it with a very strategic approach. But we've talked about creating a video where the mayor shared one with me that came from HRM that talks about all the environmental benefits of having a treescape within your community. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting little projects and activities. And again, we'll come back to council with this and talk about some of the things that we're thinking about and hopefully expand on it. We feel that it's a good news story, something we can actively pursue. From a technical standpoint, one of the challenges is we got to get rid of the old tree stumps, right? So this is not just buying a tree and sticking it in the ground beside it. We need to actually remove the old tree stump. We need to ensure that we clean up the environment around it, plant a tree properly, and make sure that when we're finished, that when people look at it, they say that the town did a really good job with it. So even though you say $25,000, wow, that's a lot of money for tree planting, we anticipate that's going to cost somewhere between $300 to $500 a tree. So we're kind of guessing at that, but we think it's probably in that range. The environmental department, the studies for the planning of improved utilization of assets and disposition of assets, there are a number of initiatives underneath that. The primary two that I'll speak to tonight are the Backhoe Hill and the Recreation Master Plan. I think council will be getting both those documents in front of you in the month or so to come. And there's a significant amount of work in both those to come up with a long-term plan for how to utilize the recreational assets, such as we're investing wisely and planning for the future. Our community is becoming more diverse, and the expectation is likewise is that our recreational infrastructure become more diverse. With regard to Backhoe Hill, we know what the plan is in the CCP, and we're going to execute on that once we come forward. Hopefully, like I say, in about probably 2 to 4 weeks, with a long-term, probably about 3-year plan on how to move forward with that one. And there are some costs associated with the upfront, obtaining some urban planner type activity or specialists to help us develop that long-term plan and give us a sense of direction on where we're going. We have $30,000, sounds like a lot, I know, set aside for signs.
Did they say why they need to be replaced? Is it just a time period? Are they out of fashion, or is there something structurally wrong with it? Okay.
Regarding signs, yeah, we all know those ones. I believe there's another Lunenburg sign on the highway that has the town logo. Is that one of ours as well, or is that one? Okay.
Yeah, just briefly, we don't know yet entirely what recommendations will come out of the anti-racism committee for projects, but this is considered probably very likely. So we did a couple of projections based on some of the items that are likely to come forward and budgeted accordingly. So for this first year, we'd be looking at 2 new interpretive panels, like similar to the heritage ones that we see around town, that would address some more of the diversity of our history of the town, like Black loyalists, for example. Thank you.
Okay, so going section by section, we'll open it up to questions now. Counselor Sanford?
I was near bursting to ask something. And it's not so much a question. I'm just wondering, when we talk about the beautification and the tree planting and so on, that resilience roots piece, we really can link that to our climate change section in our comprehensive community plan, because tree planting is so much more than just the beautification, right? So when we think about climate change and we think about really hot temperatures and rising temperatures over time, and the shade that trees provide to keep the town cool, to keep concrete areas cooled, rooftops and so on. So I'm just wondering if we can link those two together as we go forward, because it's really as much about climate change as it is about beautification.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, some of the terminology here can be improved upon. And that the reference to climate change, I think we can build as we start to go forward here. A number of these initiatives respond to climate change. Okay. So for example, we're talking about the saltwater intrusion in our systems. We're talking about flood damage to our wastewater treatment plant. You know, we can focus in on a list of items that we're saying are in response or direct response to the climate change that we're struggling with.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and on the same, I'm going to take the floor just because I had one on the same point that it is semantic, but to talk about trees in the context of core infrastructure, like it's not just climate change, even it's stormwater management, it's extending the life of infrastructure like asphalt. It's, you know, the deputy mayor can tell you that I think staff are sick of hearing me talk about street trees because I'm the biggest proponent of street trees there is. I had one more question related to street tree. Kevin, when you talked about 300 to 500 a tree, was that all inclusive cost? Or is that just the cost of the tree itself?
No, that's the full in cost. So
That's the all inclusive.
yeah,
So
we anticipate that we'll have to rent one of those machines that they lay it down on the stump and grind it up. So it basically mulches it up. Then we'd have a machine clear up the root system. You know, then you have to replace the soil and the lawn or the mulch or whatever. Like it needs to be returned to its natural state, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, that's perfect. So we'd be looking somewhere in the ballpark of 50 to 75 trees based on that all-inclusive projection.
Yeah, we actually have a tree committee. It's a highly sought after committee here at the municipality.
No idea how happy that makes me.
So, but that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're starting in using GIS, we'll really target in to make sure that we're going to the high profile, high visibility areas. So
Maximizing the connectivity of the urban forest and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. We should be spending 25 on street trees every year. I have Councillor Duggan and then the deputy mayor.
With the highway signs, is there an opportunity for redesign with,
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a new sign, so if, I guess we would need to have a sense of what the design process would look like, if there's particular input to it. that you might have.
eye-catching?
Eye-catching? Well, everybody's definition of eye-catching is different.
Thanks, Worship. I'm going to bring our attention to the town hall exterior restoration. So I know this has been on the agenda for past councils, and we've sort of punted this down the road. And I know it's probably getting at a point where it is percolating a bit. But I did cheat a little bit, and I did look forward into the 3-year capital plan. And there I see it's like $600,000 one year and $600,000 another year just for the exterior restoration. That's 1.2 million bucks to restore the outside of the building. So I'm saying, have we done a thorough, analysis whether we're better off restoring this building or building a new town hall, and using this building surplus? So that would be my question. And then, restoration, what's our advantage in terms of getting funding versus the new building?
Well, I guess just a few comments to that, Deputy Mayor, was that having this initial restoration, which council has already pre-approved, like the stage of it, I think that will help determine what those costs may be in the future, right? That those are just our best estimates, but with little or limited knowledge at this point. And so that this tender process or this assessment work gets carried over. Then we would be able to do that analysis that you're seeking and determine about various grants, because obviously there are certainly ones available for historic restorations and that sort of thing. So we would have to do that kind of research after we would have that.
Okay,
information.
Councillor Halverson.
Yeah, I'll also, I read the back of the book too, and I noticed that part of the issue is, the fact we've got a leaking roof. I mean, that's just going to cause this whole building to deteriorate even faster. But to the deputy mayor's point, if I remember correctly, the new administrative building over in Modal is you know, was it 5 million? Is that what it was?
He built it.
Exactly. Yep, 15. Yeah, whatever. Either way, I mean,
It was around 8 million.
yeah, that's what I thought. It wasn't, you know, but we're already sinking potentially 1.2 million. Yeah, definitely worth exploring as we go further down the process. So, thanks.
Okay. Any further questions on this section? Seeing none, I do want to take the floor to make a point before we get too far down the road that I think this is a really, like, I know we're all having questions, they're really good questions, but I think it's worth saying that this is a really good capital budget for this year. I find it very well thought through. I hope other councilors do the same. I know staff put a significant amount of work into it, and I think they deserve a great deal of credit for that. Yeah. I just didn't want that to go unhighlighted, that's all. Okay, next section.
So the next section, your worship, is the Public Works section.
Mhm.
And the first couple items are related to the Tanner roads. We'll turn those over to Kevin, and then he'll throw things over to Lisa Kay.
With the number of projects they give me to talk to, you think I know what I'm doing over here. Tannery Road, I've just received back purchase and sale agreements from the lawyer. I'll be writing a memo hopefully tomorrow to place on top of those and then start approaching the residents in the next couple of days. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I think we're kind of on schedule and on budget in early days, but you know, it's going to be probably late fall or mid fall before we get to the actual construction, because it's got to be done in a design build set type of scenario. Again, recognizing our limited internal resources to do that work, we're going to need to build it slightly differently than perhaps in the past. But we don't have anything today to reveal or indicate that our budget's out of alignment or anything like that. So I think we're moving forward with that one, and hopefully, like I say, we'll be walking on fancy new sidewalk come fall.
The acting town, oh, well, do you want to just wait till the end of the section? The acting town engineer.
Okay. So the Duke Street and Prince Street sections that we have here, they're both in poor condition, and they need to be reconstructed. The next item is the manhole covers. So there's currently 21 manhole covers in town that are the old style with the square profiles. And they currently get caught in the snowplow during snow clearing operations. The next is the sidewalk renewal. So Green Street sidewalk is not only in poor condition, it is also too narrow for our sidewalk plow, and also for the standard sidewalk should be 5 feet, and it's currently 4 feet. So part of the reconstruction of sidewalk would be also widening the sidewalk to the 5 feet. So for the equipment, the first two items are already pre-approved. So I'll jump down to the van, the water utility. So the current inspection for this van expires in June. A van is not very useful for public works activities. So we're proposing to replace this van with a pickup truck. And I think it's important to note that this does not need to be a new pickup truck. You know, a used pickup truck is fine. The loader is currently in poor condition, and the biggest challenge we have with the loader is to find replacement parts for it. So the loader is not only used to plow the streets when it snows, but it's also used for year-round activities for various public works activities such as water main breaks and street and sidewalk repairs. The loader is important to minimize the time of road closures and to maximize the time of efficiency of our public works team. A replacement loader would need to be the same size of the current loader and also to have enough weight and horsepower to maintain the hills during snow removal. The next item is a blade for the backhoe. So the current blade is very rigid with no give, and it's bent from hitting things during plowing. So the proposed blade catches snow and keeps the snow in, and this would allow the backhoe to be more efficient during snow clearing. It is also, with its click attach, it provides some give, and therefore it shouldn't get bent as easy as the current one. And the last item here is the mower for our trackless. So this is an add-on for our trackless machine. This is for maintaining ditches, shoulders of the road, and this could also be used to help trim the Back Harbor Trail. The mower attachment also requires to have dual front wheels in the front of the trackless for balance. So that's part of that budget as well.
Thank you. Councillor Halverson looking away.
Thank you. I just had a question. I know we've gone down the Tannery Road many, many times, but we have that GIS study coming in to examine our underground water infrastructure under there. I just want to make sure that what's being done on Tannery Road wouldn't benefit from, if we decided to put a hold on that until we get the GIS study. Is there a benefit to waiting on the GIS study, or is it unnecessary? And can we just proceed with Tannery Road with confidence?
My gut tells me that it's fine to go ahead with the Tannery Road sidewalk. I know through recent exploration that the water pipe there is all 8-inch pipe. We don't, the sewer related infrastructure, I think is fine. We haven't identified anything there. There is one other issue that I'll be bringing into council on March 8th, which may impact the timing of this and how we go about doing it, but believe that for a future conversation. But the only other thing we were talking about, and I think it's been set aside now, is the electrical upgrades that were potentially going to occur, and that's been set aside for the time being. So I think we'll be fine.
Councillor Duggan.
So my concern with the Tannery Road area and the late fall or fall construction of the sidewalk is that that area has become extremely busy in the tourism season. So now that the brewery is there, many people are walking or biking in and out. And we have the waterfront park along there as well. So my question would be, if we're not able to do this project until the fall, is there a solution, a short-term solution that we can come up with for that pedestrian traffic, whether it be like a roped off section where people can walk safely? It is too busy not to have something there. And the brewery entrance is on a blind corner from both sides. And it's just, the foot traffic there is really, it's very busy, so.
That's something we can certainly look into. I mean, part of the reason why we looked at a fall timeframe is because of the busy tourism season, and we didn't feel like digging up the sidewalk and all the traffic diversion would be good in the middle of the summer. And I don't think we could probably achieve that timeline. I think it'd be, we'd have to look at, but we'll certainly look at your ideas and see what else we can come up with as well.
Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sanford.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess I'm looking at the street reconstruction. Like, we have Duke and Prince down as fix, and I'm not debating at all whether the needs there. I'm sure there's probably 6 or 7 other ones there we can answer as well. So anyway, but I'm thinking, I have personally have no complaints on Duke and Prince, but I am getting, especially this year, a lot of complaints about Duke. So I don't know you're taking under street construction consideration. And personally, Victoria Road, like recently, and that those are 2 I'm hearing about the loudest.
Okay. Anybody want to speak to that?
Sorry, I was just going to say that I don't have an answer for you because the previous town engineer, developed the budget. But I can certainly look into perhaps why these streets were chosen, but maybe Lisa D has something to add.
Just the one item I was going to add about Maple Avenue, because as you'll note when you're looking at the back further on, that Maple Avenue is identified there. And really it is a cost and a balancing of what can be achieved in the current year versus the cost and the length of Maple Avenue repair. So there may have to be some temporary patching in order to get there. That's
Yeah.
sort of a bit of where we arrived, where we're at this point.
And I would suspect on Victoria Road that we've upzoned that for a considerable amount of density and it's only got an 8-inch sewer, I think, under there. So that would, I think, need, you know what I mean, patching and then, yeah. Counselor Sanford, you're done. Yeah. Counselor Sanford?
I'm looking at the equipment and I completely agree with needing a plan for replacement of the equipment for Public Works over time. I'm wondering if because we've got a couple of really big ticket items in there with the Chev truck and the dresser loader. I'm wondering if we might not move to next year, the van and the push blade for the backhoe and reallocate those budgeted funds towards the accessible bathroom and entrance renovations and improvements at the arena.
Lisa, you want to speak to that?
I was just going to note that they were funding sources that perhaps council might have to consider about whether you want to reallocate them. The funding for the van, and I'm sorry, I didn't note which of the other pieces of equipment that you were referring to, Councillor.
The push blade.
The push blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are both coming out of what we call the Public Works Equipment Reserve that we set aside specifically for Public Works equipment. And so, not that it can't be reallocated, but it's just to make council aware that was
That's from a specific
that was
allocated
specifically
reserve
what it
for
was
public works
allocated for.
equipment. I have a question that I'll just follow up on in terms of sort of small fleet consolidation. Like I know we've purchased a lot of additional trucks, small trucks, have we not, over the last couple of years? I seem to recall that. And I'm wondering with this long-term plan, is there opportunity either this year or future years for consolidation of our small truck fleet?
I would agree that we have added additional vehicles to the fleet recently, sort of like when we were rolling in ones maybe from electric light and those sort of things. And so I'm not saying that it necessarily this year, but yes, I think as part of the fuller plan, there should be some review of the number and of vehicles required in the fleet.
And I'm not even suggesting that need, maybe we need, 3 new ones instead of 5 used ones,
Yeah.
but just giving some thought to, I know how these things tend to creep and then everybody just assumes whatever is there is getting replaced. So I've learned over my years on council to be mindful of not letting stuff get in to begin with. Any further questions on this section? Councillor Sanford.
Just want to reiterate again with regards to the parking strategy study that I really will be looking for how it aligns with the comprehensive community plan and the suggestions within that, how to take those suggestions the next step forward. Thank you.
Thanks. And again, then following up on that one, because I have one on that one too. We're in the unique position that our parking strategy is going to be really a provincial issue as opposed to just purely municipal issue, given that we're such a highly visited tourism site. And I know that the parking plan is one of the 35 5-year priority items from the comprehensive plan. And I know the comprehensive plan talks about partnerships. So I want to ask, have we thought about tie-ins or, the Tourism Association or Develop Nova Scotia reaching out to see if, there are opportunities for partnerships with this? I don't want to slow it down, right? But there might be some opportunity there.
I defer to the CEO, but also I think it's just that we're in early stages of developing that.
Yeah.
And so that is something certainly as we consider that we can.
It was as much a suggestion as a question. Yeah. Any further questions on this section? Councillor Howson?
Basically, you kind of touched on what I was going to ask later, but just about the scope of the parking study that we're going to undertake. I assume we've got some rough ideas, but we'll come up with a scope before we send this out to RFP. Is that the idea? And then that's the point where we can address, we'll want to make sure that CCP is addressed and look for partnerships and all those things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that the one thing I didn't mention is that we're setting aside some money within the electric utility to buy 2 charging stations. We need to start catching up with everyone around us. And I think that's one that we don't have a lot of time on. But we did talk about at least leaving those for implementation until the study's done, so that we have an idea of where they can be placed strategically within the town. But that's exactly right. We'll bring this in and have a good discussion around all the components of it, because it's broadly put in the context of parking study. It's not really fancy terminology. This wasn't the best communication, but it's trying to get to a point that, you know, there's going to be a lot more discussion around it.
Okay, that takes us on. Do we even have to discuss wastewater? There's nothing yellow there. I mean, but we'll go through the list anyway.
But no, there certainly aren't any yellow items, and there's only the four blue items, your worship, and
Yeah.
I can just provide a brief summary. Some of them we've even touched on already this evening, but the first item that's there is the blower room HVAC items for the $67,000. And that is really, you know, it's part of the building condition assessment. It was identified, and it's a health and safety item that needs to move forward. The underground infrastructure master plan, we've spoken about that several times already this evening. Then there's the Lunos Drive sewer line improvements regarding the saltwater intrusion, and we've done the early planning work for that in this current fiscal year to get geared up to action that project. And then the last item there is just a small start to a flow meter program to be installed at each of the lift stations. So that would be the first one, and that would be the Brook Street lift station.
Anyone want to speak to any of these? Any questions? The only point I'd make is I really do appreciate that staff have the GIS underground infrastructure master plan. I mean, short of the plant and the plant retrofits themselves, the collection systems would be the only thing that would be, you know, holding us up in terms of council's overall policy and strategic direction toward densification. So I really like seeing that this year, and yeah, let's get it done. Okay. That takes us on to our final, oh no, our
Well, it's
second.
recreation. We won't be speaking, pardon me.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the recreation director is with us this evening from her COVID isolation.
Hello, can you hear me?
Kelly,
Can you hear me?
we have Kelly.
All right, hello, thank you.
Every time we
So-
do this, it's like a seance.
All right, so for the recreation capital projects, the first one is the ice resurfacer room renovations. So this is the highest priority for the recreation department. The new Olympia does not fit the existing.
Can we hear you, Kelly?
You can't hear me? Hello? Hello?
When's that AV study done? Every time.
Oh, I know.
Hello?
I'm cheating.
We can now.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Do we have all the mics muted?
Can you hear me now?
Kelly, we can hear you. Go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, I can hear everyone laughing, so I wasn't sure if that was at me or what was going on. All right, so I will start from the beginning now. So the recreation capital projects, the first one is the ice resurfacer room renovations. So this is the highest priority for the recreation department. The new Olympia does not fit the existing room, as there's only 1 inch on either side of the machine to enter and exit the room. So the room needs to be reconstructed to make it wider and longer for the new machine to fit. The second one is the accessible. You muted me, Heather. The second one is the accessible bathroom renovations. So in November 2021, an accessibility.
Kelly, we're having a lot of problems in here. I don't know where it's coming from. Oh, here we go. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Then there are two items to have some accessible improvements to the facility, grant applications. And as you know, that they are
without the funding for the recreation master plan, that those items would move forward. And then there are two outside items, such as the cricket field, cricket modifications to the baseball field, and that's an Insta-pitch project that is able to be moved if it needed to be relocated, and there is a grant application for that that could seek 100% funding for that, and some additional upgrades to the skate park. And those are, as we noted, are noted to have the master plan carried out for those.
Thank you, Lisa. I had Councillor Sanford, then Councillor Hobbs.
I have to speak to the ice resurfacer room renovation. Need somebody else to have a look at this. And what I understand is, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. The ice resurfacer fits in the room. The doors are the issue, as when the doors close, there's limited space between the back of the resurfacer and the doors, but there's adequate room around the front and the sides of the ice surfacer. And again, I could be wrong.
I'll let Lisa
So,
speak to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So somebody please help me. I'm still struggling to understand how it is that we bought a machine that doesn't fit in a space. And like, how does that happen? And how do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? Thank you.
Your worship, Kelly's going to call in and I'll put her on the phone so she
I
can speak
think
to
we're
that.
fine. I don't need another technological error, so let's just, Kelly can take the night off.
I can't speak to the process to purchase the Olympia and the size issue that we're being addressing here. What I can tell you is I like to see firsthand what some of the capital challenges are. So I actually went up there to see it, and there is literally 1 inch in front of the machine to the garage door, 1 inch behind it. Now, the part behind it is where the doors open and close, so there's 1 inch of clearance. There's actually a bit more clearance there, but the doors need to open and close. And Dennis and I, who are both fairly big guys, could not fit down either side of that Olympia because the amount of space available is probably no more than 6 inches. So, and unfortunately, we already have some damage to the front of it because it does not have a brake on it. So they're going back and forth, trying to line it up. They have a string coming down from the ceiling with a little ball on it. And that little ball has to sit at an exact point on the tractor so that when they haul down the front or close the gates behind them, they don't damage the machine. It is what it is. We are in a position where we do not have enough room to adequately park without probably continuing to damage that beautiful machine that we paid a lot of money for. It is amazing, but yeah, we did that.
I think too, our arena is quite old. I think it's 1920,
Yes,
before
actually,
modern sort of machinery was, so I can just imagine that room so you're getting the scaling up of these modern machines constrained probably by an aging rink.
yes, I actually just had a text from the recreation director, and that's what she was noting, that the room is built for it's the original size of the Zamboni that
Yeah.
would have been there when the rink was built.
Counselor Hopson.
Actually, my point was about the ice resurfacer as well. It's not a Zamboni, as everyone will be quick to tell you.
Kelly
It
would
is
be
an
the first one
Olympia.
to tell us if she was here.
But no, my concern is more, it's more frustration. I know there's nothing we do about this now, but this machine was bought, for several considerations over, an electric machine, which was an option. And one of the reasons used against buying the electric machine was that it wouldn't fit in the room and it was going to require more upgrades to that room. So here we are 2 years later with a gas-powered machine that we're going to have for the next 20 years, and we still have to renovate the room. So I'm just going to make that point. I'm done. Thank you.
Fair enough. Any further points on the recreation budget? No. All right. That takes us through everything.
Yes, as you'll note, there is the fire protection budget is there,
Yes.
but that will be reviewed at the Protective Services Committee, and their meeting is scheduled for March
For
20
contribution.
24th. Yes.
Does anybody want to discuss or debate this? Is it anyone's pleasure to move the capital budget as presented or move to recommend it as presented? Okay.
So unfortunately, I don't have the cost for the, what it would mean to the tax rate the following year. But as this budget is presented, the borrowing for items outside of the wastewater treatment plant upgrades would be just over $1 million. So $1,053,700 is what is outlined with the project this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
That is certainly up to council how you wish. If you need to make, if you want to look at things another evening, that's possible, or
Yeah, even though there's, the booze of the That just, that kind of makes me laugh because that's more of a past issue than it is. I'd be happy with that.
Move to recommend the council. Okay, is there a second for that? Counselor Halverson? Is there any discussion or debate? Counselor Halverson?
Kind of like to read what we talked about already. I'm very excited about this budget. I like the work, again, on behalf of, I'm sure of everyone, to the staff, well done. Really enjoy seeing the future planning on this. I love seeing the GIS plan that we've got coming through, parking study, public works vehicle replacement strategy. These long-term planning efforts are going to pay off dividends so much in years to come and make this process so much easier on everyone. So again, congratulations to the staff for the work they're doing.
Yep. Yeah.